The laughter started in waves, sharp, echoing cracks of amusement that bounced off the cavern walls. Every torchlight flickered in rhythm with the noise, shadows trembling over the gathering of scaled bodies. It wasn't uncommon for her clan to mock one another. Verbal sparring was as traditional as combat drills. But tonight, the laughter wasn't about a stumble or a broken weapon. It was directed at her. Scylla stood in the center of the circle, jaw rigid, tail thrashing in tight arcs against the stone. Her pride, always dangerously oversized, had just dragged her into trouble. "I told you," she snapped, voice higher than she wanted, "a human is nothing compared to us. Their kind is crude, weak, predictable. They can be bent, broken, tamed. And I'll prove it." The room went quieter at that, though not silent. A ripple of disbelief passed through the watchers, their ridged brows pulling down, fangs flashing in skeptical grins. Her cousin, Vare, was the first to speak. "You tame a human. One of them." He let the word drip with venom, as if human itself was a filthy insult. "You couldn't even break your own hunter-beast last season. It threw you into the river before you'd managed a single command." Laughter roared again. Even the elders chuckled. Scylla's claws curled so hard her palms ached. Yes, the hunter-beast had been a humiliation. But this was different. She'd studied humans in the pits, seen the way they fought, the way they resisted. Weak in flesh, yes, but curious. Unyielding in spirit. She wasn't about to admit to her fascination aloud, though. Pride dictated a harsher tone. "Humans," she declared, raising her chin, "are animals wearing the skin of people. I'll collar one before this season ends. Then let's see who laughs." The circle exploded again, half laughter, half jeers, and a few who looked almost intrigued. To boast was one thing. To boast that was a challenge to her standing. From the corner, Elder Rain's rasping voice cut through the noise. "And if you fail, girl, what forfeit do you give?" The room hushed at once. Elder Rain was not one to be ignored. His crests were faded to white, his scales worn, but his authority was razor-sharp. Scylla swallowed. Her tongue felt thick. Her pride whispered one word, everything. "If I fail," she said slowly, "I'll give myself to the victor of the challenge. Body and bond." The silence deepened. Even Vare's smirk faltered. No one made such an oath lightly. Body and bond was more than service. It was submission, a lifetime of obedience, and in their culture, loss of the one thing she had fiercely guarded, her virginity. Rain's eyes glittered. "Then so it is spoken. We shall have a human brought to you. Let us see this taming you boast of." Her heart pounded. Too late now. She had crossed a line she couldn't retreat from. The humans were kept in the lower dens. Not prisoners in chains, but not free either. Mercenaries captured in skirmishes, traders who strayed too close, explorers too bold. The clan considered them curiosities, laborers, sometimes sparring partners. Scylla descended the spiral path alone, torchlight casting her shadow across the walls. With each step, she rehearsed her plan. Approach the human, show dominance, break resistance, claim victory. Easy. Her clan would choke on their laughter when she returned leading a docile human by the collar. The gate creaked as she pushed it open. The smell hit first, sweat, iron, smoke. Then the sound, faint coughing, the scrape of movement. She entered. There were 6 humans inside. 5 avoided her eyes. But one met her gaze directly. He was taller than she expected, broad-shouldered, his clothing torn but not filthy. His hair was short, his jaw shadowed, his eyes sharp blue that glinted even in dim torchlight. And worse, he smiled. "Well," he said, voice carrying that strange human roughness, "looks like I've got a visitor." Scylla froze. She had expected silence, or perhaps cursing. Not this. Not calm, not humor. "You will stand," she ordered, claws flexing at her side. Instead, he leaned back against the wall, crossing his arms. "You've got the tone right, but your delivery's off. You sound like a child pretending to play warden." Her tail lashed. "I am no child." He drawled. "Prove it." The words stung sharper than they should have. For a flicker of a moment, she thought of the circle's laughter, of Vare's mocking grin. Pride ignited. This human would learn. She strode forward, seized his arm, and yanked. He rose easily, but not because she forced him, because he allowed it. His muscles tensed under her grip, strength thrumming like coiled steel. She realized with a start that, physically, he wasn't weaker than she was. "You are mine now," she declared. "You will obey." He leaned down, closer, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "You don't even believe that yourself." Her breath caught. For a heartbeat, she hated him, not for resisting, but for seeing straight through her. The others in the cell watched silently, eyes flicking between them like prey animals sensing a fight. But no blow came. Instead, Scylla released him, retreating a step, masking it as deliberate. "You will learn," she said coldly. "Tomorrow, you will kneel before me in the circle. Or I will break you." His grin widened, infuriating. Looking forward to it. That night, she could hardly sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that grin. Heard his voice. Prove it. She told herself it was anger. Fury at being mocked by a human. But another truth coiled beneath, unease. He was supposed to be easy prey, but something in his gaze had flipped the power between them. By dawn, the clan was already whispering. Word had spread, Scylla had chosen her human. The wager was in motion. When she entered the circle again, the crowd was twice as large. Every cousin, rival, elder, and child wanted to see her rise or fall. Pride demanded her spine stay straight, her eyes defiant. 2 guards escorted the human in. He walked without struggle, head high, as if he were the one being honored. Some of the clan hissed at his arrogance. Scylla stepped forward. "Kneel." The human looked at her, then at the watching circle, then back at her. And he laughed. It was not cruel laughter, nor nervous. It was confident, alive. And in that instant, the wager became something more than pride. This wasn't about taming a human anymore. It was about surviving one. The human's laughter refused to leave her ears. Even as the crowd hissed and jeered, even as Elder Rain's voice called for silence, it lingered, vibrating in her skull. No one laughed at her. Not openly, not boldly. And yet this human, this prisoner, had done so without hesitation. The circle pressed in, eyes glittering. Everyone wanted to see if Scylla would seize control or collapse under her own boast. Vare leaned forward, fangs bared in a smirk sharp enough to cut stone. "Well," he called out, voice oiled with mockery. "Make him kneel. Show us your pet." The crowd chuckled, the sound needling Scylla's scales. Her pride screamed for dominance. She thrust her hand toward the human, claws glinting in the torchlight. "Kneel." The word came out steady this time, laced with command. Her clan stiffened, waiting for the human's submission. But he didn't move. He cocked his head, eyes narrowing, as though studying her. Then, deliberately, he sat down on the ground. Cross-legged. Relaxed. The circle erupted into laughter again. Heat flared in Scylla's chest, flooding up her throat. The humiliation burned hotter than the torches. But she forced her jaw to stay tight, her voice steady. "You mock me now. But when I break you, there will be no laughter left." The human leaned back on his hands, utterly at ease. "You keep talking about breaking me," he said, his words carrying even in the noisy circle. "But I don't think you understand how humans work. You can break bones, you can cut flesh, but our will—" He tapped the side of his head. "That's not so easy." A murmur rippled through the clan. Some looked unsettled, others amused. Elder Rain's gaze, however, sharpened. "Then perhaps," the elder rasped, "this challenge will test more than flesh. Scylla, you may have until the next moon to bend this human. If you fail, the forfeit holds." The words slammed into her like a hammer. Until the next moon. One full cycle. Time enough for triumph or disaster. Vare's grin widened, and Scylla's claws dug into her palms. She had no choice but to win. They gave her a chamber in the lower dens, a place where she could keep her subject without the interference of the clan. It wasn't a cage, not for him. That detail stung. He was free to move within the room, to sit, to stand, to speak. The only barrier was the locked door that separated them from the halls beyond. She had expected resistance, shouting, perhaps attempts to attack. Instead, he made himself comfortable, pacing the room like a guest who had been invited rather than a captive. Scylla leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You will obey me, whether you realize it now or later." He sat on the stone bench, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. "What exactly does obey mean to you? Do you want me to fetch water? Bow when you walk in? Or is this about something else entirely?" Her tail lashed. "Obey means do as commanded. Without question. Without resistance." He chuckled softly. "See, that's the problem. Humans don't do without question. That's why you'll never tame us. We're too damn stubborn." The casual confidence made her scales prickle. He wasn't supposed to sound like that. He was supposed to resist in ways she could crush. Physical, obvious. Not this calm, infuriating defiance. "Your stubbornness will break," she hissed. "I'll see it shattered before the moon's end." He leaned back, folding his arms. "You can try. But let me give you a warning, lizard girl. Every time you push me, I'll push back harder. That's the human way." The words struck something deep. Not fear, no, not fear. Something sharper. Intrigue. The first week was a battle of wills, played out in small, maddening skirmishes. She ordered him to stand, he sat. She commanded him to silence, he spoke louder. She demanded he bow, he lay on the floor and pretended to nap. Each time, her fury boiled, but striking him, forcing him, somehow felt like conceding. A true taming required more than violence. She had to make him choose submission. But how? Worse, the clan was watching. Not directly, but whispers spread. Every morning when she left the den, heads turned. Some snickered. Others waited, eager for failure. Vare shadowed her constantly, whispering taunts. "Your human walks freer than you," he murmured one evening. "Perhaps you're the one being tamed." Her claws nearly sliced his throat then and there. But rage wouldn't win. She needed results. That night, she returned to the chamber determined. She would break the human smugness if it killed her. He was sitting at the bench again, carving something into the stone with a shard of metal he'd scavenged. She snatched it from him. "What is this?" He shrugged. "Just passing the time. Humans don't like sitting still without purpose." On the wall behind him, etched rough but clear, was a pattern. Lines. Stars. A crude map. Her eyes narrowed. "This is no game. You plan escape." His lips twitched into that damn grin. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm reminding myself where I come from. You can trap the body, Scylla, but you'll never trap the sky." The words hit harder than she expected. She shoved the shard into her belt and snarled, "You will learn your place." He tilted his head. "Maybe. Or maybe you'll learn yours." The second week brought complications. Elder Rain summoned her privately. His gaze was piercing, his tone heavy. "You made this boast to elevate your standing, girl. But each day without progress weakens you. If you cannot bend the human soon, you risk more than your pride. You risk our clan's honor." She stiffened. "I will succeed." "See that you do," Rain rasped. "Or you will not only lose your bond, you will lose your place among us." The weight settled on her like a mountain. Failure meant exile. She had thought the wager only personal. Now it threatened everything. And the human, curse him, seemed to sense it. When she returned that evening, he met her with a knowing smile. "Rough meeting. You look like you swallowed a boulder." Her teeth ground. Silence. But he didn't stop. He never stopped. He poked, prodded, questioned, teased. And somewhere in the middle of the third week, she realized something terrifying. He wasn't just resisting. He was teaching her. She found herself answering his questions, sparring with his ideas. He mocked her clan's traditions, and she defended them. He questioned her pride, and she justified it. Hours slipped by in debate, their voices sharp, their tempers flaring, yet she couldn't stop. When she finally stormed out one night, heart pounding, she realized she had spent more time arguing with him than commanding him. He was in her head. By the fourth week, the clan's patience thinned. Whispers grew louder. Vare openly taunted her in the halls. "Perhaps I should try with your human," he sneered. "I hear he laughs at you. Maybe he'll kneel for me." The threat sliced deeper than she wanted to admit. The idea of Vare near him stirred something hot and possessive. That night, when she entered the chamber, she found the human waiting at the door. "You're late," he said casually. Her claws clicked against the stone. "You are bold for prey." "Maybe I'm not prey." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Maybe you're not the hunter here." For the first time, she had no answer. The next morning, Elder Rain called for a trial. "Scylla," he declared before the circle, "the moon wanes. You have shown no proof of taming. The clan grows restless. Tomorrow, your human will either kneel before us, or you will pay your forfeit." The words echoed through the cavern. Tomorrow. One day left. Vare's grin split wide. The clan roared with anticipation. And Scylla. Her heart slammed against her ribs, her pride shattering like glass. Tomorrow, everything ended, her boast, her standing, perhaps her life as she knew it. She glanced at the human. He met her gaze steadily. No fear. No surrender. Only that damnable spark in his eyes. And for the first time, she wondered if the only one being tamed was her. The torches burned brighter than usual that night, their flames whipped by currents of expectation. The circle was packed shoulder to shoulder, scales glinting, voices low with hunger for spectacle. Word had spread through every den. The trial had come. Either Scylla would make the human kneel before all, or she would kneel herself. Scylla stood at the circle's edge, claws clenched, tail stiff, every muscle wound tight. She told herself this was just another contest, another chance to prove her strength. But the truth pressed like stone on her chest. If she failed here, it wasn't only her virginity she would lose. It was her place in the clan, her claim to pride, maybe even her future. Vare, lounging smugly near the front, caught her eye and mimed a kneeling bow. His grin was knives. She longed to rake his smirk off his face, but she didn't dare give him the satisfaction. Elder Rain's voice boomed above the crowd, rough yet commanding. "The boast has been made. The moon wanes. Tonight, proof is demanded. Bring forth the human." The guards led him in. He didn't stumble, didn't shuffle like a prisoner. He walked tall, shoulders squared, as though the circle were his to command. The murmur in the crowd was sharp, irritated, even threatened. A captive was supposed to look broken, not bold. Scylla's heart pounded. She stepped forward, facing him in the center. The torches painted him in light and shadow, every line of muscle visible, every flicker of expression carved sharp. "Kneel," she ordered, her voice carrying across the circle. For a heartbeat, silence. Then he shook his head. "No." The word cut like a blade. The crowd erupted, half in outrage, half in glee. Some jeered at her failure. Others shouted for punishment. Vare's laughter cut sharp above it all. Scylla's claws flexed. Her pride shrieked for violence. She could lash out, drive him to the ground, force his body down. But would that be victory, or proof of failure? Her chest burned. "You dare defy me?" He met her eyes without flinching. "I dare because I am human. You don't understand. We don't kneel to threats. We kneel only by choice. And you haven't earned it." The circle hissed, scandalized. Elder Rain leaned forward, his crests rigid. "Then what proof have we? This wager cannot end in words alone." The human's gaze swept the crowd, then returned to Scylla. "If she wants proof, then let her fight me. Not as captor and captive. Not as master and servant. But as equals. If she wins, I'll kneel." The words crashed like thunder. The circle exploded in noise. Some shouted in outrage at his audacity. Others howled in excitement. A human challenging one of their own. Madness. But madness that promised blood. Rain's eyes glinted. "So it shall be. A duel of equals. If you are defeated, human, you kneel. If Scylla is defeated, the forfeit holds." Scylla's throat tightened. This wasn't what she had planned. But she couldn't refuse now, not with the entire clan watching. To deny the duel would brand her coward forever. She nodded once, sharply. So be it. The circle cleared, leaving only the two of them in its center. The torches hissed. The air smelled of oil and sweat and anticipation. The human stripped off the ragged shirt he wore, tossing it aside. His body was lean but corded with muscle, scars marking his skin like stories. He rolled his shoulders, loose and ready. Scylla adjusted her stance, claws glinting, tail sweeping for balance. She was born to fight. Trained since hatchling. He was strong, yes, but untrained, unarmed. This would end quickly. The signal came, a clang of metal against stone. The duel began. She lunged first, a blur of scales and fury. Her claws slashed for his shoulder, meant to tear and disable. But he twisted, faster than she expected, her strike grazing air. He shoved her off balance with a shoulder check, sending her stumbling a step. The crowd gasped. A human had dodged. Snarling, she spun and attacked again, jabs and feints, her tail whipping low to sweep his legs. He leapt over it, landing light, eyes sharp with focus. "Not bad," he said, breath steady. "But you fight like you expect me to roll over. Humans don't roll over." Her fury spiked. She came at him harder, claws flashing, each strike punctuated by the jeers and roars of the crowd. He blocked where he could, dodged where he couldn't, his movements less graceful than hers but full of raw, desperate strength. Once, she raked his side, drawing blood. The crowd howled approval. But instead of weakening, he grinned through the pain, lunging back with a punch that cracked against her jaw. Stars burst across her vision. She staggered, stunned. No one had ever struck her like that. The circle erupted, half in outrage, half in delight. A human daring to strike one of their own. She wiped the blood from her lip, her chest heaving. "You will pay for that." "Maybe," he said, steady, "but at least you'll remember me." The duel raged on, a storm of claws and fists, tail swipes and grapples. Her speed matched his stubbornness, her precision clashing with his unpredictability. Every strike that landed fueled the crowd's frenzy. But slowly, terribly, she realized he wasn't weakening. He should have collapsed by now, body broken under her training. Instead, every blow only seemed to harden him. Every wound became fuel. Her muscles ached, her lungs burned. He was tiring too, but his eyes, those sharp, unyielding eyes, never dimmed. At last, he caught her arm mid-swipe, twisting with a burst of strength that wrenched her off balance. They crashed to the ground, grappling, rolling across the stone. She snarled, claws scraping against his forearm as he pinned her shoulders. The crowd roared louder than thunder. For the first time, she felt the cold edge of panic. His weight pressed her down, his grip iron. She bucked, twisted, tried to throw him off, but his strength held. "Say it," he panted above her. "Say you can't tame me." Her pride screamed denial. But her body, pinned, straining, helpless, knew the truth. The clan's jeers stabbed into her ears. Vare's laughter was a dagger. Elder Rain's silence was heavier than stone. Her throat worked, words choking. And then, with a surge of fury, she wrenched one knee up, slamming into his side. He grunted, loosening just enough for her to twist free. They scrambled to their feet, circling, both bleeding, both gasping. The crowd was no longer mocking. They were riveted. This was no simple taming. This was survival. Minutes dragged into eternity. Neither gave ground. Neither yielded. Finally, Elder Rain raised a claw, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Enough. The trial ends. The wager will be decided at dawn. If the human kneels, Scylla claims victory. If not, her forfeit binds." The circle erupted into protest, demands, shouts. But Rain's authority silenced them one by one. Scylla stood trembling, blood streaking her scales, chest heaving. The human stood opposite, battered but unbowed, eyes still blazing. For the first time, she felt something deeper than anger or pride. Something dangerous. Something like respect. As the guards led him away, his gaze locked on hers. "You can't tame me," he said softly, almost gently. "But maybe you can understand me." The words haunted her long after the torches died. Dawn was coming. And with it, the end. Dawn came too quickly. The cavern was hushed, every flicker of torchlight straining against the press of expectation. No jeers, no laughter this time. Just silence heavy as stone. The whole clan had gathered, every scaled body watching, waiting to see if pride or shame would rule the day. Scylla stood in the circle again, her body aching from the duel, her pride bruised in ways she had never known. She had not lost, but she had not won either. The human had refused to kneel, and now the final moment had come. Elder Rain's voice rasped through the still air. The wager ends today. The human must choose, submission or defiance. His choice will seal Scylla's fate. The guards brought him forward. He walked like he always did, upright, steady, shoulders squared, as if the world itself bent around him. His bruises were purple and fresh, blood marked his ribs, but none of it diminished the spark in his eyes. If anything, it burned brighter. He stepped into the circle, meeting her gaze. No grin this time, just calm. Rain gestured with a claw. Kneel, human. Submit, and prove Scylla's boast. The silence stretched, thick enough to choke on. The human looked at Scylla, then at the crowd. His voice carried clear. No. The word was a hammer. Gasps rippled. Vare's laughter cut sharp, wild with delight. She loses. The boast is broken. Scylla's claws dug into her palms. The shame was suffocating. She had sworn pride, sworn victory, sworn to tame him, and now, before all, he denied her. Her life, her standing, her very self crumbled in that single syllable. Rain's eyes narrowed. So it is decided. Scylla. Wait. Her own voice startled her. It echoed across the chamber, sharper than she meant. Every head turned. Even the human frowned. She drew a long breath, her chest aching. Elder, hear me. My boast was this, that I could tame a human. But look at him. She gestured, claws sweeping toward the man who stood as tall as the sun. He is no beast. He is no mindless prey. He has fought me, argued me, resisted me, and never broken. If taming means collaring the body, then I failed. But if taming means forcing one to yield against their nature, then no one could succeed. For a human's nature is to defy. The circle buzzed with murmurs. The human's eyes widened, surprise flickering. Scylla raised her chin, her tail curling tight. So yes, I failed. Not because I was weak, but because my boast was a lie from the start. A human cannot be tamed. The silence afterward was deafening. Even Vare seemed stunned. Elder Rain studied her with eyes like flint, his crests rigid. At last, he rasped, "You admit defeat?" Her throat tightened. Pride screamed at her to deny it. But another voice, quieter, steadier, pushed through. Yes. The word was agony, but also, strangely, release. Vare lunged forward, triumphant. Then the forfeit is mine. She gave the vow, body and bond. The circle roared, half in shock, half in delight. But before Rain could speak, the human stepped forward. No. His voice thundered louder than the crowd. All turned. He stood between Scylla and Vare, his bruised body a wall of defiance. The wager was between her and me. Not you. If there is a forfeit, it's mine to claim. Vare spat. You are nothing. A prisoner. The human met his sneer with calm steel. Maybe. But I fought her. I earned the right to speak. And I say this, I don't want her broken, or bound, or humiliated. She fought with everything she had. She doesn't deserve chains. She deserves respect. The cavern froze. No one had expected this. Not from a human. Scylla's breath caught. Her chest burned with something she didn't recognize. Gratitude. Respect. And something more dangerous. Rain's gaze swept the circle, then fixed on the human. You refuse the forfeit. I refuse to take her pride, he said firmly. Because that's not victory. That's cruelty. And humans don't kneel for cruelty. The words sank into the clan like water into dust. Rain leaned back slowly, his expression unreadable. Then to Scylla, "What say you, girl? Do you accept this ending?" Her voice shook, but she forced it steady. "Yes. My boast was pride, not truth. And he has shown me the truth. That is enough." For a long, heavy moment, the elder said nothing. Then he raised his claw. "So it is ended. The wager falls. The human kneels to none. And Scylla learns." The circle erupted, not in laughter, but in noise. Some shouted outrage. Others hissed disapproval. But more than a few nodded, murmured, even clapped their tails against the stone in strange approval. Ver stormed out, his fury like fire. But the rest of the clan could not deny what they had witnessed, a human who would not yield, and a girl who admitted her flaw. Later, when the crowd had dispersed and the torches dimmed, Scylla found him sitting by the gate. "You saved me," she said quietly. He shook his head. "No. You saved yourself. I just gave you the chance." She studied him, the curve of his bruised jaw, the steadiness of his eyes. "I don't understand you. You lost nothing. You gained nothing. Why spare me?" He smiled faintly, tired but warm. "Because humans don't win by breaking others. We win by enduring. By walking away with our heads high. And maybe, by lifting others up instead of grinding them down." Her chest tightened. She had no words. For the first time in her life, she felt small, but not diminished. Small in the way one feels standing under a vast, endless sky. She bowed her head, just slightly. "Then perhaps, humans cannot be tamed. But maybe they can be followed." He chuckled softly. "Careful, Scylla. Sounds like you're the one kneeling now." Her tail flicked, embarrassed heat rushing to her cheeks. "Don't push your luck." But she couldn't stop the ghost of a smile curling her lips. The days that followed were strange. The clan whispered, divided between outrage and awe. Some saw her as shamed. Others saw her as bold. But none could deny the human had shifted something in their world. He was no longer just a captive. He was a presence. A reminder that pride was not invincible, that defiance could be stronger than chains. And for Scylla, he was a lesson. Her boast had cost her pride. Nearly her future. But in the ashes of that loss, she had gained something far more dangerous, respect for a human. And respect, she realized, was far closer to taming than she had ever understood. On the last night before the moon renewed, she found him again at the chamber's bench. "You'll leave soon," she said quietly. He nodded. "Maybe. Maybe not. But if I do, you'll remember me." Her claws tapped the stone, restless. "I'll remember. Not because of my boast. But because you taught me something my clan never could." "And what's that?" "That sometimes," she admitted, voice low, "strength isn't about who kneels. It's about who stands." His grin returned at last, softer this time. "Now you're getting it." She huffed, looking away. But her tail betrayed her, curling in amusement. When dawn came again, and the human walked free among the clan without collar or chain, Scylla knew the story of her boast would never die. They would laugh, mock, twist the tale. But she would carry the truth. That her boast had cost her pride. That her pride had nearly cost her everything. And that in the end, she hadn't tamed a human at all. But perhaps, he had tamed her.